For years, the people of Grassy Narrows were poisoned with almost every meal. Mercury seeped into their bodies after it was dumped into the river system they depended on. It was the largest contamination of its kind in Canadian history. Now, 40 years after the poisoning came to light, video journalist Peter Wall went to Grassy Narrows and found a community still struggling with illness.
The Jones Road heads due north from Kenora, Ontario. And for 40 years, journalists like me have been driving up it. Driving past what seems like untouched, pristine Canadian Shield. But for generations here, a silent killer has been at work.
What we have done to the Ojibwe people here falls little short of an act of genocide.
Even if the chemical plant in Dryden were to stop production or change its technology and not a single ounce of new mercury were to enter the river system, it could take 100 years for the present mercury to disappear.
Among the people here, there's a growing sense of the dangers of mercury poisoning.
Methylmercury poisoning attacks the central nervous system. Its effects are devastating.
In a country with no shortage of troubled reserves, Grassy Narrows stands out. Unemployment has hovered at 80% for decades. Alcohol abuse, suicide, violence, all problems here, though things are far better now than they once were. But by far the worst thing this First Nation of 1400 has faced is the mercury.
This is Matthew Beaver. At the time of our original testing, he was the one at the highest level of mercury.
That's former Chief Bill Fobister. He was in his mid-20s when it all started.
During the 60s we were in full bloom. Fishing, guiding, everything that we did, and we thought everything was okay. But it's not until that we're seeing some of our fish acting weird and dying off. That's when that there is something wrong.
Something certainly was wrong. In March of 1970, the Ontario government found the water was poisoned. The Reed paper plant upstream had slowly dumped 10 metric tons of mercury into the river system. The mercury poisoned the fish, and the fish poisoned the people. The symptoms were dramatic, and many were sick. Many are still sick, including Bill Fobister.
My symptoms is my numbness and loss of sensation and my vision. My speech is kind of getting pretty sloppy. My taste, I lost my taste. I lost my smell. I can't smell anymore.
But the mercury didn't only destroy people's health. It wrecked the local economy too. The commercial fishery closed. Guiding for tourists dried up. In 1983, CBC reported an epidemic of violence and suicide in Grassy Narrows.
The federal study said that 3 of every 4 people buried here died violently.
The chief at the time was Bill Fobister's cousin, Steve.
I don't think, it's right to say, look, you don't have to go trapping. You can live on welfare.
I heard from Bill that Steve was now sick. I found him at his house, a prisoner to his own body.
My whole nervous system is out of whack, and I can't barely walk. Then, I have to hold my jaw tight because my muscles are practically gone.
Steve believes he's sick because he was a fishing guide. He ate what he caught, even after the mercury was discovered.
We had to do this in order to appease our guests that the fish was okay. The tourist camp owners encouraged us to do it.
When the mercury was initially discovered, the government denied it was making people sick. until a doctor from Japan, an expert, concluded poisoning was widespread in Grassy Narrows. Dr. Masazumi Harada returned to Grassy Narrows this past month to follow up.
How are you?
Steve Fobister went to see him.
He said, you know, you have some kind of a metal poisoning, you know, and closest definition to his examination came to, it's gotta be mercury.
But as the older generation continues to suffer from mercury poisoning, and as their symptoms continue to get worse, it's now clear they're not alone.
And I only have one granddaughter. She is the one who kind of possesses violent seizures.
The mercury has poisoned some of the younger generation, too, including Steve's granddaughter, Catherine. She's now 10. She's had seizures since she was very young. She's developmentally delayed, too. Sherry Fobister is Steve's daughter and Catherine's mom.
Like everybody said that, you know, this problem was gone, and like it happened in the 60s, and then, you know, there's this doctor telling me that, you know, my daughter has, you know, all these medical problems she has, and that's the cause of it. And I don't know, like, I'm still shocked to this day. I still don't understand.
Sherry ate fish when she was pregnant. And though over the years the levels have gone down here, a study done just last year shows many of the fish still have mercury levels Health Canada says are unsafe for frequent fish eaters and are especially unsafe for pregnant women. The fish with the highest level of mercury is also the most popular, pickerel, also called walleye. Did you eat fish when you were pregnant?
Yeah, it's like, for us, it's like a part of life, you know, and, you know, I love eating fish. It's a delicacy, and, you know, it's part of our lifestyle, and I don't know, I still eat it to this day.
Did anyone say to you, don't eat the fish when you're pregnant?
No. Nobody told me that.
Particularly the pickerel, the walleye?
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Dr. Harada, who I interviewed in Winnipeg before heading to the reserve, told me the levels of mercury currently in Grassy Narrows are still cause for concern.
今まで全然食べてない人ならね、はっきり言って妊娠お腹の中の赤ちゃん以外は起こらないと。
And for people from Grassy Narrows who aren't pregnant, it's still unclear what level of mercury is safe for long-term exposure.
単純に言うとね、例えば全然今まで汚染されてなかった人がグラッシーに来て、そして今の魚を食い続けても、今のレベルだったらこの人に長旅になることはないんです。ところがグラッシーの現実は前からずっと食ってる人ばっかりなのよ。それをね、ごっちゃに質問するかわからなくなるんですよ。
But back in Grassy Narrows, that hasn't stopped people from fishing or from eating fish. Out on the lake, I met Bill Fobister's son-in-law, Larry Kiwatin.
I usually just eat maybe 5 walleye a month due to mercury in the fish.
He's only catching northern pike today, and he's not happy about it. He wants walleye. So Larry, did anyone tell you that the walleye is the fish with the highest mercury concentration?
No, that's kind of news to me.
In 1985, after a 15-year battle, the Ontario government and the paper company agreed to a financial settlement with the residents of Grassy Narrows. For those judged to be affected, monthly compensation was and is paid out. Steve gets $250 a month. Bill gets $350. Catherine gets the maximum benefit, $800 a month, held in trust until she turns 18.
They just gave her compensation, like it's gonna make things better. What about her? You know, how she's been through so much, you know, for a little girl. And she deserves to have a good life and be healthy.
So another journalist comes and another journalist goes. 40 years after the first came to Grassy Narrows. Another journalist drives down the Jones Road. Only 60 more years before the Mercury's gone.
Tomorrow we will have more on the issues affecting Aboriginal people in Canada. Tomorrow's story based on a study, Hope in the City, which is about to be released. It looks specifically at Native people who live in urban areas of Canada. Just ahead on The National, coming to a theater near you.
9 take 3, mark, C marker.
For best performance as the City of Toronto, the City of Ottawa. That's next on The National.